So, when you consider the expertise and sheer brilliance that was amongst the Belfast exclusive Brethren community in the 50s and 60s, one has to ask whether there's been a deliberate brain drain in the PBCC. Have they got rid of those that were intelligent to pave the way for coercion, brainwashing in less intelligent members? You see, Simonton said when he came, he says, the violence and the upset between the Irish and the English is because the Brethren are responsible. So he was laying it on the Irish Brethren for the violence in the place. But common sense tells you that there's been unrest between Ireland and England before the Brethren community even started, certainly before Simonton was born. And people haven't got the intelligence to work out that when Bruce Hales says the rejection of his father, John Hales, was on all the Brethren, on us all, in the 2000s, no, it was because John Hales failed and had to be dealt with. And anyway, it's the Sydney Brethren's responsibility. Administration is local. Nothing to do with the Brethren in England and America, New Zealand. And it was Jim Taylor that stopped him and his brother Bruce taking meetings and had him withdrawn from. So it's a complete change of narrative. And you have to be a little bit unintelligent to take all that in just to swallow it. When the eating matter came up, Jim Taylor said that one brother quite rightly asked, what about the barbarians? Paul ate with them on the island when they was after the shipwreck. Oh, he said, they were in fellowship. No, they weren't. No chance they weren't received into fellowship. And anyway, there was no fellowship like the Brethren know it in those days. So all this nonsense about Bruce Hales being the Paul of our day and linking the barbarians with the fellowship when the Brethren have to come in white shirts to the meeting. Barbarians weren't wearing white shirts. There's no link at all. But you have to be a little bit Irish to swallow. And I did. I've had to make up for my lack of education since I've left 7 years ago and start working things out for myself. So we say that we have a joke on the Irish, but in actual fact, the Irish joke about the Brethren. Yeah, it's just pathetic, some of the things. So, you know, we need to understand. And then Conor Glass, I mean, it's serious stuff to get down to the reason. I mean, there have been so many. I mean, if you take just over here, there was Ivy Jones, wife of William, and her son-in-law. I think it was Kevin Dormer married the Jones girl, lovely girl. And he stands up in this public podcast to millions. Bruce Hales is such a lovely man. Well, if he says that on a public podcast, everyone thinks, wow, what a lovely man Bruce Hales. He would never hurt anybody. He'd never shout. He's just mild like Jesus was. I'm sorry, Kevin Dormer. It's a lie. He's not a lovely man at all. He's a ruthless businessman and manipulating his flock to make money out of them and milking them and having them work hard for next to nothing or nothing, worn out, worn to a bone, and raking in the profits. So the coroners say, well, and I'm worried that the Brethren know how to manipulate the systems of man, whether it's coroners or police or social services or whatever. But if they said, well, if matters aren't deemed suspicious by the police, it's none of our business. to look into it. It's not our job to search out motives. So really, they are leaving it to religion and good people of this earth to search out why things go wrong. And of course, there's a duty for every Christian gathering to work very closely with the police and with the authorities, so that if there's anything suspicious or someone's worried there might be a suicide, just declare the thing abundantly as it is. Never hide the truth. Never, ever hide a suicide to make your religion look better than it is. That's deception. Don't make out that you're a lovely man if you're causing suicides. And this deception runs right through at the moment. And not all the brethren, but the hierarchy, I would say. They're deceiving the rank and file that they are special because we're making so much money, because we're businessmen. Therefore, we must be God's people. Blah, 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 blah. It doesn't stand to reason at all. And so, yes, it's not the coroner's duty, they said, to apportion blame. But if there's any criminal element in it, well, we would act on that. So the brethren try and criminalise me. I raised questions about Mark Lyon's death, Conor Glass's death. Another suicide was Dick McMullen from Dublin. He's died apparently. No one tells me. I find out when I come. But he has a lovely wife. She was a Peel, I think. And they weren't run-of-the-mill type brethren. They were a bit different, but lovely people. So was undue pressure brought to bear on them? I leave the question. My grandfather committed suicide after being chucked out of the brethren on the Christie side. So someone's got to be brave and ask whether there are a higher proportion of suicides and deaths and drownings in the brethren, or untimely deaths, I should say, road accidents, drink-related accidents, than there are in the world at large. And because the brethren have got the ability to close individual matters down in individual places, the Leeds police probably never get to hear about a suicide in Belfast. Not that I'm saying it is a suicide, but it stinks of it, because Conor Glass phoned me and said he felt like committing suicide. And I was just going to court, as I've said before, in Leeds for harassing the brethren. So I cannot knock on doors, I can't ring them and tell them, they slammed the phone down on me. So I wanted to avert the suicide. Anyway, I reported it to an open brother. But nevertheless, I did say, well, I said the coroner's made me feel almost an offender for having a concern about Conor. You know, it shouldn't be like that. I just said, well, she backed down and said, well, I'm just delivering my soul because I'm a Christian. Oh, she said, she seemed to understand then. But it would be utterly wrong to be anything other than genuine in any report you give to any police or any coroner, because that's deception. It's completely wrong, especially when the brethren withdraw from people for lies and deceit. So we just have our concerns, and then it's come to my mind that there was a Joanne Patterson, a sister of John Patterson of Manchester, and whether he took the lead in Manchester because of this happening, I don't know. And Steve, lovely guy in Belfast in the Brethren, but they had a sister who's now in the Renton Brethren, I believe, and she was kidnapped by the Brethren. We've had all this up about kidnapping with Richard Marsh. I happen to know Derek Reed was kidnapped back in the day. He married Pete Burroughs' daughter. I got on well with him. He came to live in Leeds and he was kidnapped back in the day. So kidnappings do go on. Of course, when Richard Marsh's matter comes up, the brethren don't come forward and say, yes, we were trying to kidnap. They leave us to ferret it out and dig and delve. But they should be open and making it easy for the authorities and telling them the truth. very difficult when I looked into matters, had to look into matters pertaining to paedophile activity in the Brethren. They do not make it easy because of the layers of hierarchy trying to protect the man of God and the position and the purity of the man of God. And of course, people would know he wasn't pure if he was covering up any paedophile activity. That's a very serious thing. In fact, it's a jailable offence. So of course, they have to work like Trojans to save any reflection or bad reflection on the man of God, because we're such a good religion and we're better than the rest, It's not at all healthy. And I do really carry grave concerns as to whether the Brethren are leading a healthy life in there, with all the drink and suicides and stuff. They're lacking basic education, so they're just swept along with the crowd, swept along with narrative, believing everything they're told without proper discernment.